Many of you know this individual right here. This is the former president of STMA, Jeff Salmon. And one thing that really stuck with us when he provided his president's speech, when he took the gavel just a couple years ago, one thing he said is, as STMA members, as sports turf managers, we are the directors of first impressions. And that really stuck with Tomas and I. That's something that we talk about every single day with our team, when we talk with media, when we post on social in terms of the tone and voice. You all are the directors of first impressions. Think about that young child. Think about that coach. Think about that fan. I do it every time I go to a sporting event, and I'm a passionate sports fan. Every time I walk into that stadium, every time I walk onto that field, wow, look how impressive that field is. And so you are the face of that field. And so what we're going to talk a lot about today is the professionalism that is needed as part of that, and how PR and social tie into that. It's very important to have a proactive role in your own personal brand, and also having a proactive role in being involved with your company, your organization's PR, as well as social media, whether it's through your personal networks or through your company, through their social channels as well.
So one of the things that stuck out to me, and good morning, everybody. One thing that stuck out to me yesterday during our general opening session is, well, two things. One, how Weston Appenfeller mentioned that an owner, a coach, a player is nothing without a field. You know, that facility is what keeps us all employed. And without that director of first impression, his job is going to be much more challenging. This is important because the second thing that really stuck out to me during that talk yesterday was the angle that his boss said. And if anyone was at that session, hopefully everybody was, is that he mentioned, hey, we're not just turf guys, we're also revenue generators. And I don't know if that's the first time that you've ever heard that concept, or some may get taken back a little bit by that notion that, look, we love our grass, but we also we all have a boss. My boss is my wife. But understanding that, look, if that field is not in perfect, immaculate condition, we're not going to be able to bring in that revenue. One great example of an owner, a team that celebrates their sports turf team is Tom Wilson with the Miami Dolphins. They published a quick video before Monday Night Football against the Patriots and shared about this notion of the directors of first impression. It's so important also for them that, like when Glenn mentioned that as the fan steps out, the first thing that he sees is the field itself, that we wanted to share that clip with you and get a sense of the pride that the Miami Dolphins has on their field, and obviously on Tom Wilson and his team. And when we look at companies, organizations that take pride in their facility, in their turf managers, what happens next? Brands start noticing and understand that, you know what? I want to be a part of that. They love their field. The folks that go to the game at Hard Rock Stadium love their field, or in this case, Mile High Stadium. Well, I guess it's the defunct, what's that store? Sports Authority Stadium, even though it seems asinine that they still have that name. But this is a great example of, hey, a brand wants to associate themselves with the directors of first impressions, the facilities and organizations. And obviously an owner is going to be extremely satisfied that a brand takes notice, because that's when revenue comes in. And this is where you see that relationship between the turf manager and the bottom man. And when you get brands starting to notice your job, it's going to help you as turf managers because you're going to be able to ask for that equipment and they might be approved. If you're going to go and have these tough conversations with your boss about, hey, you know what, give us a little bit of pay increase. These types of things are going to help. And these are other two videos that we just want to quickly show about Chris Hathaway and his work with his team.
Before the players take the field, someone has to make the field perfect. Everyone's doing their part to make your game day better.
So this was a massive turning point. Does anybody, by a show of hands, remember seeing this on TV? What was the first thing, and you can just call it out, that you felt? Did you feel anything when you saw this? Something that I felt, a tremendous amount of pride. Pride, and you know what? In this room, we all recognize the great work that each of us do. But look at when a major brand like Papa John's recognizes that. And not just the Mile High Stadium, but specifically call out Chris Hathaway. And you'll see in this next video that hopefully you guys also saw, that it's a behind-the-scenes view of what it really takes, and not just talking about the field, but what it takes to actually get that field in perfect condition.
You know what? Let me brighten this up.
It's a good question. We got a couple tricks up our sleeve. First, we start with soil heat. So I can keep my soil above freezing, so it kind of tricks it into going dormant. So most lawns go dormant in that October, November-ish time frame. Well, I turn soil heat on to kind of think it's still fall. So I can keep it in mid-50s when it's 32 degrees outside. So I keep it from going that. And then I also have a growth tarp. It acts kind of like a greenhouse that we covered up on off weeks that allow the sun to shine through and the water to percolate kind of through the tarp. So that's kind of another trick we use. But it just is a handful of things that we try to manipulate what we want with the grass. Bluegrass germinates a little slower. It's about more like 14 days. And the ryegrass is more like that 6 to 7. So later in the football season, we start throwing more ryegrass just to get that germination and that seed up between the short span of games. Bluegrass is a little slower and it needs more heat, more water. So we kind of just go towards the ryegrass. So that's why we're a little bit of both right now. When I was in high school, I started out as at the golf course, mowing greens and fairways and cutting cups, and just enjoyed it from there. So I went to school. I have an associate's degree in horticulture science, and kind of knew someone in the business, and that's how I kind of got into the professional side of it. A few years doing that, and then I came here to the Broncos. I find myself more watching the field and their footing than who wins and loses. It kind of depends. I'm a big football fan, don't get me wrong, but I find myself looking for that kind of stuff instead of touchdowns and field goals.
Okay.
Pretty big stuff.
Something that also impressed me here is Chris's willingness to put himself out there. Usually we want to be behind the scenes. You know, a great day is when we're never mentioned. When a field is never mentioned, that's good news for us. And I know it may be counterintuitive to talk about the field, but this is an individual who has chosen to maybe put himself in a little bit of an uncomfortable situation of talking in front of a camera. I don't know if they did any things that we just don't tend to do ever. And the result is that this was broadcast on TV, national television. So looking at what that did to the industry, it's a massive opportunity to look at what it means to be these brand ambassadors and what it means as your job to be this professional.
So a couple things that we're hoping to accomplish today, and we've got them listed here. The first and foremost is we want to help you to learn how to communicate with your employer, and so that they can turn into a sports turf advocate. And we're going to talk a lot about the authenticity of the message, whether it's through a PR or a social channel. We want to help you to understand PR and social media, but ultimately how to communicate your story. And as I was at the welcome reception last evening, I looked around and I told this to one of the board members. I said, I recognize several people in this room, but there's a lot of people I don't know. And each and every person in this room has a story. where they came from, what they do, how they got there, what their passion areas are, what their interests are. Those are things that are all part of your story and all part of your brand. So we're going to explore that. The last one is to develop a proactive approach to maximizing your positive impact among your colleagues. And again, it's something that's not always easy, and it's something that may be a little bit uncomfortable, and it's a little bit counterintuitive to the industry itself, but it's something that it's important to advance the profession, to advance the industry. So just back to basics here, and again, we'll start first and foremost talking a little bit about PR. So this is a definition of professionalism. So I'll read it for those who maybe can't see in the back of the room. The conduct, aims, or qualities that characterize or mark a profession or a professional person. The following of a profession, such as athletics, for gain or for livelihood. So think about that for a second. PR and social tied directly to professionalism as a sports turf manager. If you are unwilling or unable to want to take on those challenges, it becomes difficult to advance your profession and difficult to advance your professionalism. They are things that help you to have larger visibility within your organization, within your industry, and they help to build your own personal brand.
So this is when it starts getting interactive. So hopefully, please, guys, answer some of the questions. And I'm going to ask you guys, just because you're the closest. To you, what is PR?
I guess like PR would be for myself just a gateway to kind of express myself, not to local clubs but to the world, I guess.
You're next. So do you agree with that? Do you think it's a little bit different?
No, I agree with that. I also think that there's maybe a little bit more to it as far as a relationship with, folks that are not in our industry, folks that are above us, folks that are below us as well. It's a kind of a way of communication and know-how.
So those are spot on. And something else that PR, and when you think about what PR is, it may be conducting an interview for the local television, a newspaper article that is written about your field, your team, yourself. But when we look at it, what PR is, it's much more than that. Those interviews, that work on the media relations side is just one minor component of what PR actually is. For us, public relations is a way that you protect and promote your brand. It's all about brand awareness, how you secure your personal brand, your organizational brand, your industry to the larger audience. These are two common known products, household products. Something that they have in common is this good housekeeping green seal of approval. What does that mean? What does that mean to us? And hopefully it's being conveyed to you today. When you go through Giant, Walmart, wherever you shop, you look at that, you pick it up, and you know that that's certified because it's been validated, not just by yourself, but what you're saying, but someone else recognized, you know what? This is a good and trustworthy product. So when we look at PR, you need to be able to tell your story in a compelling manner. Again, we talked about it just a few minutes ago, that it may be counterintuitive, but it's going to help you, help us, help the industry in the long run. There's a lot of things that we can do on a day-to-day basis that will help you achieve that. One good example is your facility. There's the Stars and Stripes Award, the Environmental Certification Award, the Best Community Facility Award, the Groundskeeper of the Year Award, Field of the Year Award. All these awards that are available and provide you with two things, and the owner as well. We always have to keep in mind that you want to be able to communicate up and communicate down. if your facility is awarded the Environmental Certification Award, that now cements that facility for 3 years. That's saying, look, we protect not only the environment, but the field. It's a stamp of approval. It's a stamp of approval that these brands work so hard to achieve. So that works for the ownership because there's going to be more people interested in your facility. For you personally, Field of the Year, Groundskeeper of the Year, Environmental Certification of the Year, certification for the facility, even though that last one is designed to the facility, you can put that on your resume and saying, you know what, I was the Groundskeeper of the Year. And you have to be willing and able to put yourself out there, look at all the awards that are available to you, and not just in the STMA world, but in the community world, because it's going to help you advance to that next step. We all want to advance in our career. In order to do that, you need to fill your bucket with chips. The more chips that you have, the more personal branding that you work towards. It's not something that you're going to get for free. Nobody will, and I think everybody here can attest to that. We've worked pretty damn hard to where we are. And if you want to get to that next level, you need to make sure that you're working towards that next level, not just expect it. Some of the things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis, and again, this is not designed to talk at you and say, you know, of already the 1,000 things that we need to do on a day-to-day, now I need to think about one more. I think we both know that that's just not going to work. But understand in the realm of protecting and promoting yourself, the industry, the first bullet is plan, predict, and prepare. Why is that there? Because at any point in time, anything can go wrong. And you need to be able to put enough chips on the good side so that when something bad does happen, because it's the reality and it's not designed to scare you, but it's not a matter of if it's when. It happens to all of us, and it has happened to all of us. You have to stack enough chips on your side so that when something does happen, not to our advantage, we can plan against it. Have a reputation management plan that you work with your employer. So you know if something happens with the field, you know who you can contact, if it's yourself, if it's your boss, who's going to get out there in front of either the media, your ownership group, whomever it is. But you need to, just like Weston mentioned in the morning session yesterday, you need to play an active role and speak up and saying, you know what, I need to be a part of these discussions because the facility and the field is my responsibility. Reputation management and crisis control, we just mentioned. Staying humble and showing authenticity is important because, again, I believe it may go against our grain of not wanting to say much, but you need to be out there and talking about it. And then the last part is the creating awareness of the team's active role in the local community. We don't want to show you an example that just was published 2 days ago. Did anyone see this video? You did? This is the vice president and athletic director, newly appointed athletic director for the University of Texas. Chris previously came from TCU. And he went out of his way, and you see through the little check mark, I don't have that check mark on Twitter. He's got, I think, 25,000 followers. What this showed is how much he appreciates, again, the active role that his sports turf manager and his staff play into the community. And it's a 5-minute video, so we're only going to show you a little bit of it.
My name is Weston Floyd. I'm an athletic field and sports turf specialist for the University of Texas. I'm the president-elect of the Texas Sports Turf Managers Association, and we are here today in Rockport, Texas, helping the Little League rebuild their facilities after Hurricane Harvey. Today on the fields, what we're trying to do is go through and we're getting the infields leveled back up. So you have grown-in grass and dirt blown out. So we're cutting all of that out, getting a defined area for the field. And then we're bringing in dirt and we're going to laser grade it and bump it all back up so that it's perfectly level and safe and smooth. And then the game mound has been blown out by the storm, so we're cutting all of that out and rebuilding it, putting in brand new plates and mound rubbers. And then we're also replacing all the irrigation on the facility. They lost all their facilities for irrigation, so we were able to replace every single head on the facility. And then once they get their buildings built back up and their electricity up, they will tie into their clock and they'll be able to turn on their irrigation. This place is nowhere near.
So why should you care? Let's be honest. Of this video by the University of Texas that was produced and shown. And just to be fair, I'm going to walk a little bit further back. I'm coming to you. But so do you see the value in the University of Texas and his boss showcasing what the work of the sports turf managers are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it reflects well on him. It reflects well on the company. It's a good message. Everybody that's involved with it, it's positive information.
Exactly. And what that tells me is this is exposure for the industry. This is exposure where someone saying, you know what, they're not just taking care of, and I'm sorry to be back here. I don't want to. Yeah, go ahead.
I believe in this 100%, but also has a bad effect because there's a lot of communities south of San Antonio that have approached me in the past and people in the industry and asked for help, and we're always told no. So now what comes out of their mouth is it takes a natural disaster to get help. So that's where we're at now.
Yeah, and that's a completely 100%. And I don't think we're here to solve any major problems. The reason we wanted to show you this video is because it allows us as sports turf managers to get out there in front of it. And the more soft pressure we're able to apply to your school system, to the University of Texas, who may have a much, much, much larger budget, saying, look, they're much more than, and I hate it when they say this, but guys just mowing lawns or no, dude, it's much, much more than that. We're giving back to the community, to a ballpark that was directly impacted. Can we solve every problem, every ballpark, every soccer field? No. But the more chips that we're stacking, the more exposure that we're getting as an industry, it's going to help us much more.
I would just add to that, using that as a vehicle to share with your employer, and we're going to talk a little bit about the employer communication, but I think they'll quickly understand, hey, look, that's a multi-million dollar athletic budget University of Texas has, and I'm with an organization that doesn't have that type of budget. We encourage you to share these examples. You're not going to have necessarily a professional video production crew that's going to go out and follow you for a full day, but there are ways through social and through kind of your own means to be able to capture some of this content. And then, of course, in terms of taking some of these on, that takes a kind of its own level of creativity, whether it's with the regional chapters or the national office. But, overall, these are examples that, really kind of struck home with us at a kind of a national scale. But there's a lot of things happening at the local regional level. But these are really strong feel-good stories that for us help to improve, help to enhance the brand of the sports turf manager.
So some things that you want to keep in mind and maybe convey that to your boss, to your team, is some of the don'ts. We talked about all the feel-good stories. Try not to be reactive. That's why you want to be able to plan accordingly to say, hey, if something does happen, don't run around and don't know what to do. Sometimes it's a challenge, and this may be a bullet more focused on the boss, but don't only look at the business objective. Don't only look at the facility, at the grass, to making sure that it's healthy, safe, and aesthetically pleasing. No, you have to be able to know your boss's point of view. And tying it back to the second, I don't know what slide, that talked about, hey, you know what? We're revenue generators. So you have to be able to transition there. Don't take a stand on things that are larger than your organization. just stay away from it. You need to, making sure that obviously what we were talking about, building these chips, there's no reason why you need to be talking about things that others, it's just gossip. And lastly, the competitors. You don't want your competitors to be controlling your message. The more that you're active in PR, and we're going to talk about social now in a second, it allows you to take control of your message, of what message we want to convey for the industry. So before we jump into social media, we just want to pause for a second, because I hate to always be talking at you. Are there any questions, comments? I forgot about this slide.
Thanks. So just kind of to wrap that up, and then we'll jump into a couple questions. The employer communication is critical. I mean, it is absolutely mission critical. If you are not willing to have that difficult conversation with your direct boss or the influencers, the important people within your industry, it's going to be very challenging for you to be able to participate in these types of PR opportunities. And again, we're just speaking about PR here. So be proactive in terms of arranging a weekly or a monthly discussion. Every Monday at 10 a.m., every first Monday at 10 a.m., you have a sit-down conversation. Professionalism. Be dressed for the part when you walk into that meeting. That's extremely important. Being prepared for those meetings, having ideas, coming to the table, creativity, brainstorming. Here's some things that myself and our crew are doing with our field, with our athletic complex. Come to them with these ideas and then have a discussion about it and where there may be opportunities to expand that into a PR storyline. There needs to be, first and foremost, the ability that you're going to be open to discussing your role, what it is that you do, what you do to impact positively not only your team and organization, but the industry as a whole. Again, being prepared to share why your sports turf angle is important to the organization. Right? And that's challenging. We understand that, right? There's a lot of storylines, especially as you get to college and professional sports. There's the players, there's the coaches, there's the competition, right? There's only so many chances we really get to talk about the field. But we don't want it to be, let's talk about the field when it didn't perform well. We want to talk about, this is all that took place in the off season. This is all the hours that the sports turf team put into preparing this field for this big match. So being in front of it, being proactive, and having an idea of what your angle is. Is it safety? Is it the field is an excellent recruiting tool for collegiate athletes? There's so many different angles that you can take. Safety is critical. Safety is a topic that is covered widely across PR channels right now. That's an easy one, right? And there's many more angles specific to your climate, specific to your job, specific to your team. So brainstorming those ideas is critical, is very important. And more importantly, why should media care? Why do they care about that storyline that you're sharing with your internal communications lead or your boss? Why should the company put themselves out to pitching that media member on that story idea? It has to be timely, it has to be newsworthy, and it has to be relevant. And if it's not those three things, media get, especially New York City media, A-list media, they're getting 500, 700 pitches a day. Think about that. 500 to 700 emails a day that they're getting with story ideas. Now, at the local regional level, that's much smaller, right? But ultimately, what we hope is offering you as a thought leader in your local regional community, making their job easy, coming to them with cool and unique story ideas that are relevant. Now, when there's an opportunity for that media outlet in that local regional market to talk about that particular topic, the first thing they think of is, who could I quote in this article? Who could I reach out to that's going to provide validity or credibility or authenticity to my article? And now what you've done is you've created yourself as an industry expert. You've also created yourself as an influencer. And you've created somebody that can provide thought leadership to that particular story angle. And so that now has in itself created more PR opportunities. So PR, why is it important? It creates positive awareness for your team, your school, your community, your organization. Right? It draws importance to field safety, and most importantly, that your organization has an STMA member employed. And we'll talk a little bit about what Buffalo's role is, but that's something that's really important to us. We want to make sure that in those media stories, that they know that this is an STMA member. This is somebody who has taken their education and their experience to the next level. We talk a lot about ego. We don't see this much in the sports turf industry at all. We see it in other industries, but it's important that you do put yourself out there because your boss will take notice. And what's also important to that is when that publicity hits or when there's a relevant article, be willing to share that. Because don't just assume that your boss or your colleagues or your employers, we do this all the time in our business. Thought this might be an article that you'd be interested in reading. And it's something that kind of plants the seed. It's a sports turf angle. It's something that's relevant to your business. It gets them thinking about, okay, what is my sports turf crew doing and why should we be more proactive about telling their story? And then allow others to advocate on your behalf of the facility for a genuine, authentic message. And again, the Vice President of the University of Texas is a great example. So PR, what is required? First and foremost, who handles that in your organization? Some of you maybe work in very small organizations. There may not be one particular person that focuses this on a day-to-day, but ask those questions. Be willing to understand who is conducting internal communications, who's conducting external communications. We break it down into owned and to earned media. Owned media are the channels that your organization has, your website, your publications, your e-newsletters, your social media channels. Earned media is defined as the media that you obtain by being proactive and outreaching with your story. So it's publicity, it's social media. Those are your earned media channels. So understanding kind of the difference between those two is very important. Making yourself available for media training and interviews. And this is something that we hope to continue to build with STMA going forward, providing you those resources so that you are prepared when you go into a media interview. One thing that we created a couple of years ago was a media interview policy. So every time that we arrange a media to speak with an STMA member, we give them kind of a 1 to 2 page sheet, and it's just basic elements of what you should do to prepare for that interview. First and foremost, be professional. Don't wear a hat during your interview. Don't wear sunglasses. Very little things that you think don't make that big of a difference, but they help portray a better image of the industry. Connect with industry colleagues who have already spoken with media and learn from their experiences. I'm just looking around the room. We've set up interviews for Dan Bergstrom, Dr. Goatley, Jimmy Simpson, and I'm sure there's plenty more. And there's a lot that goes into the media vetting, gathering the sample questions, preparing them with talking points, and those are really good experiences. And you learn from each one and you get better with more repetitions, just like everything in life. And then again, share the publicity with your colleagues and your personal network. Spread that news. Push it out on your social channels. It's not braggadocious. It's you're sharing something that's important to your organization, important to your profession. So the Buffalo PR resources. We, again, as a team, have the ability to review media opportunities. So if you do receive an inquiry, and we have this happen quite a bit, feel free to email that to Tomas or myself, and we can take it a step further. Feel free to connect us with the communications person in your organization. We have these conversations every single day, and we'll share a success story that really helped us to move forward a lot of media opportunities. We're able to supply the industry data and statistics. Again, position yourself as a thought leader, right? When you have numbers, when you have metrics, when you have data, and you're now sharing that in an interview, wow, that positions you more as an expert. You think about quotes from executives, from leaders that are in news releases that are posted online. It often includes statistics. It often includes things that it's really kind of puts into a broader perspective from a strategic level, from a 30,000-foot view. Again, we talked about the media engagement strategy. And then lastly, we're here to offer the opportunities for you as an expert in the industry. We want to pitch your story. If we don't have your story, we continue to look under every rock, every other corner, but it's important to make sure that we are receiving the stories that you have. We can dig them up, but be proactive in approaching our team with those ideas. Side note, this picture here is my alma mater, University of Mary Washington, and beautiful natural grass field. So I wanted to stick that one in there as well.
Come on, Glenn. So here we wanted to share, similar to Chris Hathaway, we shared a few other examples that kind of put themselves out there. Here's a great example that happened over the summer on August 20th, the Little League Classic. 14 STMA members renovated the entire field in advance of the Major League Baseball game. This was one event, one day, one crew, and from that, they put themselves out there. We were able to stay ahead of them because we learned of this months in advance and prepared. We were able to secure 31 media interviews. And again, this is designed to show you the impact that if you put yourself out there, this is the type of result and impact that you can have for your personal brand. The personal brand that will help your organization, your boss take notice to your profession and elevate your profession. 31 publicity hits. We collaborated with the MLB network. This is the game notes. These game notes were distributed to every league office, every media member across the country, and mentioned specifically STMA's involvement in this renovation. This was massive because as a result of this, as a result of working with the Major League Baseball front office, we were able to secure publicity live on ESPN, on MLB Network, Forbes, Associated Press. And these are things that your boss will take notice. And when he sees your guys in the limelight, he's going to appreciate it. He's going to appreciate it because it's going to make his job easier. So I want to take a second. Do you guys have any questions regarding anything? Anything related to PR before we jump into social media? Don't make me walk around with a mic.
And we'll take more questions too at the end if there's something that comes to mind. And I know that this is a lot that we've kind of thrown at you from a PR perspective, and it's very high level. We know that there's individual situations. We know that there's limited budgets. We know that there's limited resources. This adds something onto your plate, but it's something that's important. And again, it ties back into your brand. It ties back into the professionals in the industry. And you'll hear us continue to.
Hold on. Let me get that mic. I did my run today.
Do you all see this as being any issue with level of PR? Say if we're a smaller town, is that something that you all are willing to engage with? If it's not at this level, because this is phenomenal, but what if I'm a small community just trying to get into the local media? Can you assist with that?
100%. 100%. And sometimes those local stories are they're so heartwarming. They're so connected to that particular community that they end up turning into something much larger. We've seen that happen, where we've told a story of a field reservation. We've told a story of an STMA member at a local level. And what we've realized is, wow, they were such good pickup locally, regionally. This has got some legs to national media as well. So those are things that we love to explore. The opportunity to tell a local grassroots story and then be able to maybe position it as more of a national story. That's a great question.
Because similar to with the University of Texas, it's all local. It all starts at the grassroots and then we'll funnel upwards. So absolutely it's one where we assist and we encourage you, regardless of the size of your facility. Everyone, as Glenn mentioned, everyone has a story worth telling. Yes, hold on. I can split it up if you're getting tired. Don't put up a sweat.
Some of us are tied to universities that have our own communications departments. Everything that we do kind of travels through our communication department. We were one of the facilities that achieved the environmental certification. We went back to them with all the data, all the information, all the PR, the plaques, things like that, and said, hey, this is kind of a big deal for us. This is a big deal for the university. And pretty much requested for it to be in our local media, paper, whatever, and they blew us off. You guys help with anything like that?
Come to Buffalo.
Well,
So,
I
yep. Sure. It is. That's a great question. There are several chains of command that sometimes we know sports turf managers have to go through to be able to tell that story. We know it's not easy. When we started working with the association in 2013, we hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, but we didn't stop knocking on those doors. And what's important is to create that dialogue with the communications folks. Don't maybe come at them and say, this is something that you need to do. This is something that we think you should explore. And it's not going to happen overnight, which is unfortunate. But it does take a level of trust, a level of repeated attempts, a level of proactivity from the sports turf manager to set up those meetings. We talk about the weekly, monthly meeting, right? If you can set those up, if you can continue to have those conversations with your communications department and sharing those ideas with them and telling them how you're going to make their job easier, that this is a great story. It's a fantastic story. You have to be persistent. That is our business as a PR firm. When we hear no, that means next opportunity. We continue knocking. We don't like to take no for an answer. We continue to push. We continue to find ways, not to be a pest, but to make sure that this is important. This is something that deserves the attention that it's not getting at the moment. So, again, we have the resources with Buffalo that I'd love to gather your contact information after this, and so that we can certainly do our part. We at times don't mind playing the bad cop and having that difficult conversation and saying, look at some other success stories that we've had. There was an Associated Press hit with the environmental certification. How many?
I think it was about 86 hits off of one press release that we distributed.
So just right there, we could send an email to them and say, hey, by the way, looks like you missed an opportunity. 86 publicity hits. Our university is one of few that got this certification. And at least it gets them to think about it a little bit more so that when you come back to them with ideas, they're now a little bit more receptive.
And you also
we know it's not easy.
It's hard. You also have to be strategic of saying, if you went to the communications office, they may have blown you off. Go to your boss. Go to the athletic director and explain to him and ask him on your behalf to go talk to the communications office. Because if the communications office maybe won't listen to you, they might listen to him. So you also have to, and I hate to say it, but in these instances where you have some roadblocks, you have to play a little bit of the politics. Mm-hmm. And nobody in this room likes it. I don't like it. I'm sure you guys don't like it either. But it's the fact of it's reality. So let's talk social. Again, by a show of hands, who has social media? Who's active? That's pretty good. I think about 100%, if not 95%, raise your hands. Jimmy, I didn't see your hand. Who's active on social media that they're posting? And again, it doesn't have to be a show of hands, but you can scream it out that I'll share my example first. I have social media, but I'm not very active on posting, but I'm always looking at it. Is that similar to what you guys, I see a lot of heads nodding.
We call that a lurker.
Yeah, sure, I'm a lurker, Glenn. Who follows field experts on their social media channels? I didn't see 100%. Everybody grab your phones. Look for field experts because you'll see where you can be connected on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. All these are different resources and they're designed to do different things for you to make your life easier, your boss's life easier. I'll tell you a little bit about each of these and what they are designed to do and a good feel-good story of who knows who that is? No. Hunter. That so Facebook is designed for these long form conversations with the understanding of you want to have dialogue, long form dialogues. Instagram is perfect for our facilities because as the directors of first impressions, Instagram is very art heavy and learning to take a nice picture of your facility will be great. Twitter is the 24-hour constantly tweeting. Instagram is primarily used for professional development. Look for your next job there.
LinkedIn.
Excuse me, LinkedIn. What did I say?
Instagram.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. LinkedIn is designed, again, to look for your next job, to put your resume out there, and STMA provides a lot of thought leadership opportunities for you to post as contributors, but also to read on their company page and on their group page. And then YouTube, obviously, there's a lot of educational resources to learn how to take care of a facility. If you're having issues, there's a lot of great videos there.
Do you want to talk about that video?
Yeah, you're right. So NOLA.com produced a video of we're going to agree to disagree, that with no intention, they came out and toured the facility, and just to get an idea of what these guys are doing at LSU. And to date, it's received more than 110,000 views. Think about what that does for your personal brand, for the industry. 110,000 people now got a behind the scenes look at what it is to be a sports turf manager. Not just someone who's painting a logo, but much more than that. He's a scientist. He's an artist. These are all traits that we feel very close and strongly to. So why is it important? The work that we're doing in PR needs to expand on social media. You want to extend that personal brand and your voice, what you're communicating to the press. You also want to communicating that on social media. We have the luxury, and certainly I am very appreciative that for a week we get to spend the time with best friends in the industry. But we all live across the country, so you may not have the opportunity to see one another more than once a year. Through social media, you communicate every day with one another. Staying current and relevant with the industry through LinkedIn, through different articles that are posted not only on STMA, through the field experts, but in the World Wide Web. It just gives you an opportunity to stay current, learn more. This is why we're here, to learn and network. And then obviously the last point is really important, because do we have any student members? No. Good. Great. I guess they know the importance of PR and social. When we're looking at these guys who are going through the ranks, who are the next sports turf professionals, they may be looking at social media for influencers to get ideas rather than traditional media. So speak to them in the avenue where they're most used to consuming that media. And what's required? Willingness to try something new. I expected when I asked that original question for about half of the room to raise your hand that you had social media. So of those who are lurkers, as Glenn mentioned, maybe try to post something, engage with one another, try something new, put yourself out there. And again, it's not going to be the end of the world. Maybe I'm in that bucket too. Try to post regularly. When you're putting yourself out there, if it's once a week, whatever that regular cadence is, Jimmy, start posting, but get yourself in that regular habit. And then access to creative assets. You have photos, maybe your organization, your facility has videos where you can ask the communications department, say, hey, can I use this video? I'd like to post it. And lastly is the development of a brand voice on channels to capture authenticity. We're all about being authentic. So you need to be able to communicate what you feel, what you mean, not only on PR, but on social as well.
The last element to that is, in all of these, they tie into professionalism. So if you're putting yourself out there on social media, you have to be careful about what you're discussing. You have to be careful about the punctuation. You have to be careful about what you're hoping to portray to your audience. Again, positioning yourself as a thought leader is important. So it doesn't always have to be stories about you or your organization. It can be stories about your colleagues in the industry, your friends, people that are doing great things in sports turf, and people that are doing great things in the green industry. So there's opportunities, for the content to be not only personal, and you see that a lot on Facebook, but through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through Instagram. If you can, make it more of a professional spin. Because again, it elevates your brand, it elevates the organizations that you represent, And we know that there's some limitations for those that are at the collegiate professional level. We understand that. But having the opportunity to put yourself out there, but put yourself out there in a positive light, put yourself out there so that professionally the information that you are posting looks positive. It doesn't have 10 exclamation points, doesn't have different errors, doesn't have, offensive language. I think most of the people in this room understand that, but it's a good reminder that you are a reflection of yourself, your organization, your industry, and it's important to continue to put yourself into a thought leadership role. From a social media standpoint, Buffalo, our role is we explore editorial opportunities within STMA social channels. So the hint there is if you follow on social, we are the community managers. And by community managers, we define that as not only are we building the strategy for STMA social, but we're also posting, we're also monitoring it on a day-to-day basis. We've incorporated a lot of different social themes, campaigns into what we do, the brand voice of the industry and the organization. Turf takeovers, turf tips, Q&As, all different types of unique graphics, and we're constantly looking for new ideas. We're constantly looking for people that are savvy and social that want to be able to get involved. We have the ability to retweet and reuse user-generated content, and we define user-generated content as if you're posting a picture of your field and we follow you on social, right? Make sure you tag us. Make sure you tag STMA at Field Experts, because we want to make sure that we're reposting that content, because that, again, feeds into kind of the greater, broader content strategy for STMA. We can't be out at sports fields each and every day. You individuals are, your team is. Ask them to gather content for you. Ask them to grab images, to grab videos, to get information that you can post to your personal or your organization's social channels. And then we as an association can then take that content and repurpose it. We also supply campaign toolkits. Many of you may have seen the conference toolkit that we created. So we try and make it as easy as possible for you. We hyperlink content so you can click, you can schedule it. It's not always easy. We know you have very busy days where you're not in front of a computer, you're not on your phone, but there are opportunities to schedule content. Hootsuite, TweetDeck, you can schedule content on Facebook. Typically early morning, lunchtime, and evening are the best for engagement. So something to think about as well. Within those toolkits, we have other assets that you can use, infographics, images, videos, and again, posting those to your personal networks, but also sharing them with the social media lead for your organization. Depending on the size of your organization, that communications person could be handling both PR and social, or could be two different people. Make sure you understand within your organization who those decision makers are. We like to call them gatekeepers, because ultimately if we get them the content and they don't post it, we know where the buck stopped. But next time, we're going to make sure, hey, we sent you this information. We think it's very relevant. We think it's important. Could you consider posting this again? And then offering tutorials, trends, best practices to STMA members. Some of the social success stories. So from left to right, we had a lot of fun with this one. This was November 2016. Tim Van Loo was the incoming president. Jeff Salmon was the outgoing president, and they played together on a Thursday night game at Iowa State. And so we had some fun with it. We called it the Prez Battle. And we did some interviews. We did content on ground, on site. Tim gave us fantastic access. We had a lot of fun with it. It wasn't all serious. We had a little bit of humor to it. It was a friendly competition, and that was a really successful campaign. Some of the other ones here, of course, the mowing pattern, Stars and Stripes. You are artists in what you do. And while some may think, oh, this is a little bit flashy, to us, this is technical expertise. And those are things that not only are relevant to the green industry, but those catch the eye of the broader sports fans, broader audiences. Turf tips, again, positioning the STMA as experts, gathering this content, posting it is extremely important. And then there on the right is Weston from Columbus Crew. And we actually handed him the keys. And we've done this for several STMA members. We've done what we call a turf takeover. And so for an entire day, it's a day in the life, right? Starting in the morning. Your employers, your colleagues, your friends, they probably don't realize the hours that you put into this, right? It's hard. It's long days. Sharing that story in social is a really good way for others to get a peek kind of inside your day-to-day responsibilities and roles.
And the reason we wanted to share this with you, similar to the PR success story, field experts, social media impact, not only for the industry but for the larger world, is nothing without you guys. So if someone here in the room is looking and saying, you know what, I want to do the day in the life, let us know. Hey, I have a cool idea for social. Can we do a contest about it? Let us know. I have a really interesting turf tip. Let us know. We'll put it. Without you guys, we're at the mercy of your engagement with us. And that's why we ask for your collaboration in this sense. This is going to be my ask, saying, if you want to engage, just let us know. And it's much more authentic. And when you share, and if you do the day in the life, let your athletic director know, hey, I'm going to take over field experts. We did that for when Tim Van Loo took it over one day, and Iowa State University had 100,000 followers, was retweeting our stuff or Tim's stuff because he was driving Twitter that day for that whole 12-hour period. And it's a way for you guys and us to engage in something that it's fun. I think that's the ultimate message that we want to share with you guys, is sharing what we do and what we love on an everyday basis, like a turf tip. Let's see what Nick Baker said. Treat your guys the same way you'd like to be treated. Work as a team and be proud. Stand alongside one another. This is great things that we want to also convey and communicate, these feel-good stories, and get your other teammates to know how important and how valuable they are to you. And this is a great way of getting them engaged with one another. And
that in particular, that turf tip, was that very technical to the green industry, to turf grass? It was professional development. It's a good reminder for your industry colleagues. So be willing to, again, good first step is contacting our team, grabbing a business card, reaching out. We'll reach back out, and starting to build some of that content is extremely important.